Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, and with me, as always, for another episode of the Steelers postgame show. And well, there's been better days for the Pittsburgh Steelers faithful as the Steelers lose 28-26 to the Seattle Seahawks at Heinz Field, dropping their record to 0-2. Lance, is the sky falling?
Not completely, but it's on the way. The trajectory suggests it's going down. It's not falling yet, but it's on the way down.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people joining the show because fans are upset, rightfully so. I don't think anyone really expected, in their right mind, if you were realistic about the start of the season in week one, you kind of said to yourself, maybe they go up to New England and shock the world. If not, it's not really expected. But everyone probably suggested that they would win this week 2 game against Seattle at home, and they had every opportunity to do that here on Sunday, 1:00 p.m. I want to first just talk about a few plays. We've said this before a million times on the show. We've done this show now for like 3 seasons, and I've always said that the famous Joe Gibbs quote, which was that a football game can be boiled down to just 3 or 4 plays typically that really turn the tide. And I look at just mistakes that were made by the Steelers, or in one way or the other. So you think about the Daniel McCullers personal foul on a field goal attempt, which gives them new life. The next play, they score their first touchdown. That's a 4-point swing. You think about Dante Moncrief on Mason Rudolph's first pass attempt, or I guess, in the NFL, goes right through his hands. It wasn't that bad of a pass, intercepted. They score a touchdown off of that turnover. You think about the defensive pass interference call that was overturned against Terrell Edmonds. It was just really, really bad. I know I'm forgetting another play that potentially took points off the board. But Lance, it was just a day of really
I know which
football.
one you're missing. I know one you're missing.
What's that?
Chicolo, his miss on the Rashard Penny run.
Yeah, that one too. I'm trying to think here. I said, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's those 3 plays really that if you think about the overall scheme of the game and just those few plays led to points. That's the biggest thing for me. They led to points and differential. When you only lose a game by 2, you're always going to be questioning what if. And I get it. You could play the what if game in every single game and whatever. Here's my opening question. The Steelers were hit with a rash of injuries in the game today, none bigger than Ben Roethlisberger's elbow. No word from Mike Tomlin after the game in regards to the severity of it. Didn't expect to hear anything. He said he's being evaluated. Said that, guys like James Conner has a knee. That's troublesome for a guy that's never played in 16 games in his career, in his 3rd year in the league. Go ahead.
It doesn't matter. They're not going to run the ball anyway, so.
That's true, too. We'll get to that, okay? Then you have Sean Davis, who's leaving with a shoulder injury. And Anthony Chicolo, maybe good news that he has plantar fasciitis, and maybe he'll miss some time. That would probably be a good thing for the defense.
Let me ask you, Jeff, how do you get plantar in the game? You had to come into the game with it.
He might have had some issues with a foot, and then it was aggravated during the game. I don't know. Because, you think about a guy like Moncrief, who's said openly that his finger's been bothering him, but he has yet to be on an injury report. So these guys are dealing with stuff, for a long time. But and then I'm trying to think. There's a couple other injuries, but nothing that severe.
Yeah, I only asked about that because I know plantar is not acute. Like, you just don't. Somebody step on your foot and you have plantar. Like,
right.
You probably had it coming into the game.
So let's talk about the biggest one first. What were your thoughts on Mason Rudolph? I was pretty. I was pretty pleased with the way that the second-year quarterback acquitted himself. I thought he looked good. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the offense just seemed to move a little bit better when he was in the game.
QB controversy?
No. No. There isn't. In the live chat, they're already saying, hey, Rudolph should be playing, but he didn't do anything.
He acquitted himself well. He did not stink it up. He played quality football. You pointed to a lot of, singular plays that may have cost them the game in a very close ball game. But I tend to not like focus on those things. I'm trying to take and I'm glad you pointed those out, but I try to take like a higher perspective, like a 64,000-foot perspective. This offense doesn't score 26 points without the turnovers. And
Yeah.
that has to be a red alarm. That has to be the emergency signal. This offense looks toothless, clawless, punchless. It doesn't look explosive. They don't look like they have an identity on offense. And the offensive line is not playing very well, particularly in the run game. They look like they can't run it. So there's a lot of stuff going on with this football team right now, and it doesn't look very good.
Well, let me ask you this. So we're talking about the offense. I agree with you that there seems to be a major disconnect within the offense, whether it's play calling, run to pass ratio. What in the world would possibly be the reason, and someone in the live chat just mentioned this, that the offense would look better with Mason Rudolph at center, under center, compared to Ben Roethlisberger? Answer that.
The OC is calling the plays.
Exactly. This is what I'm wondering. This type of performance from a backup makes you wonder what's going on with the starter. So, in other words, is Randy Fichtner just handing the duties to Ben most of the time, or is Ben checking out of plays? That's what I want to know, and we don't have that answer. But
Right.
if anything, I'm looking at this saying that if Mason is just running the plays that Randy Fichtner's putting in his headset, in his helmet, they're working, because in the second half, outside of the Moncrief drop, which turned into an interception, the Steelers' offense, I think, was only stopped once or twice in 2 quarters of play. It's I understand what you're saying about the turnovers, that they wouldn't have scored if it weren't for the turnovers, but you have to admit they got creative. They ran a flea flicker of
Yes,
first
yes, it,
completion.
it looked better. It looked much better. It almost looks like, dare I say, when Hobbs used to play and then Rudolph would come in, how the
Yep.
offense would look completely different. And Hobbs is, of course, Josh Dobbs. And of course, I'm going to Moncrief, that name stays until he actually makes a catch. It's going to be Moncrief. And is it going to be Chicka Go, Chicka Low, Chicka Go, Chicka Blow? He's just bad. So we have to keep coming up with these nicknames for
Well,
these guys.
Chicolo doesn't even deserve a nickname because
Yeah.
he's a backup.
Yes.
The biggest is Dud. He already has a nickname, Bud the Dud. This guy is awful. And everyone says about how Bud Dupree is going to show out. He's going to come near double-digit sacks. I think we said 8, maybe. He has 1 so far in 2 games, which I guess it's a good pace for him. He's on pace for 8 in a season if he's getting 1 every other game. But the thing with me is that he's getting one-on-one looks. That's what I don't understand. TJ Watt's getting chipped and double teamed, and he's still making an impact. Maybe we just have too high of expectations for Bud Dupree, but he's the one
Oh
that was
yeah,
spying.
absolutely.
He was spying Russell Wilson on that 3rd down where he rushed 15 yards on 3rd and 16. That was his. I'm sorry, that wasn't. That was Chicolo. The one before that was Dupree, and he just whiffed. He just absolutely whiffed. The only notable play he made today was a play that he's going to get fined heavily for, where he hit Russell Wilson with his helmet after the play. Awful. Just awful.
I'm looking at the live chat. JJ Hernandez. It's funny when guys in the live chat, when they beat their chest about picking terrible seasons. like if JJ Hernandez was beating his chest about saying they're going to be 4-12. See, I told you so. I would hope that wouldn't be the case, but they're pretty bad right now on both sides of the ball. And you saw Seattle make a very good adjustment. They went to the quick passing game. They could not block up front. They put Russell Wilson in shotgun, and they got rid of the ball. The Steelers didn't make an adjustment in terms of trying to defend man-to-man. They stayed in the soft zone, allowed the catches in front of them, and he just picked them apart. I think he only had maybe 6 incompletions.
Who's that,
in the
Mason?
game. No. Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson. He finished the day, let me look it up real quick, 29 of 35, 300 yards on the dot, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions for a 131 passer rating.
Yeah, and just imagine the Steelers' ratings in the last 2 games. I think the quarterbacks have to be above $130.
Yeah, it's yeah, not good. It so you talked about adjustments the Seahawks made, and I agree. They went to that quick hitting over the middle. They really wanted to exploit Mark Barron, who I didn't think had a good game, and the rookie Devin Bush. The Steelers struggle with tight ends again in this system. Like you said, they just refuse to get out of their zone defense at times. Where's the adjustment from the Steelers defense? The only adjustment that I noticed, and you know more about this stuff than I do on the defensive side of the ball. The only adjustment I noticed were late in the game, they started to have their run blitzes. That's typically where Mike Hilton
Yes.
came off the edge, and they know they're going to run it, but they're trying to make contact in the backfield. That caused a fumble there in the fourth quarter. So other adjustments that you saw, any that you can notice?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. It looked like they stayed in the same basic coverages. I'm going to guess, having not seen the film, probably covered three looks. They just stayed pretty basic, pretty vanilla underneath, and they really felt like they could get there with a four-man rush. But they were getting it out so quick. I mean, he was getting it out, bam, get five, run it twice, boom, first down. I mean, he was getting it out, and then they had the two coverage busts in the red zone, to give up a touchdown to the tight end on consecutive plays. Just two busts there. And you could see Sean Davis really being upset about the bust, and Bush not possibly being in the right place. Right now, they're struggling on both sides of the ball. I think the only team that might be playing worse than them defensively might be the Miami Dolphins.
Ugh, that's a dumpster fire down there. Let's look at some of these numbers that you mentioned. Just listen to the team statistics. Okay, these are not individuals. We'll get to that in a second. First downs, Seattle 25 to Pittsburgh 17. Third downs, Seattle was 5 for 13. Pittsburgh was a awful 3 for 11. Total net yards, Seattle's 425 yards to Pittsburgh's 261. Offensive plays, Seattle 72 to Pittsburgh 51. Rushing net yards, Seattle's 151 to Pittsburgh's 81. Passing net 274 to 180. Penalties, Seattle had 10, Pittsburgh had 5. The Pittsburgh Steelers actually won the turnover battle with 2 fumbles and fumble recoveries to Pittsburgh's interception, which, again, I hate that that's credited to Rudolph when it was not his fault whatsoever.
And I'm going to pause you, Jeff.
Go
Before
for
you
it.
get another number.
Sure.
And that's the importance of turnovers. Without turnovers, this is an absolute blowout. That's the important. That's the importance of turnovers. Turnovers made this a competitive game. If they don't get the turnovers, they probably lose by 2 touchdowns. Because when you look at those differentials in terms of yards and first downs and third down conversions in every stat, it is overwhelmingly on the side of Seattle Seahawks. Maybe that's a little bit different if Ben Roethlisberger plays the second half, but maybe it's not, because they didn't have any offensive rhythm when he was in the game. But turnovers are incredibly important, and that's the only thing that made this game particularly close.
Yeah, this was such a strange game to me because when you look at the first quarter, you had a Steelers defense that was just the front was just going to work. And Stephon Tuitt has 3 sacks on the day. They get 4 sacks in total on Russell Wilson. So they got to the quarterback. And then all of a sudden, the offense, though, could do absolutely nothing right. And it seemed like every time Roethlisberger dropped back to pass, it was coverage sack. He was having to force footballs. And that's a time where you should be able to run on a lightened box. And the offensive line just wasn't getting the job done. That's my biggest question, is what's going on with the Steelers' offensive line? Because honestly, I've watched these last 2 weeks just like you have. I haven't watched as much film in the back end of things, meaning the day after and the week leading up to the next game. To me, the offensive line just hasn't performed well. And even
No, I agree. I
Mason
agree.
Rudolph, when he was in there and succeeded, there were times where he was having to really manipulate the pocket well, and it's a situation that is troublesome. And immediately, I think people are going to point to Munchak leaving, and maybe that is the case. But if the Steelers are going to win and they're going to have any type of identity offensively, you have to be able to run the ball a little bit, and they can't. They can't run the ball. I don't think it's, look at the numbers. Let's talk about the numbers here. James Conner finished with 11 attempts with 33 yards. He did have a touchdown, a long of 14 yards. Benny Snell, 1 rush, 23 yards. Jalen Samuels, 3 rushes for 18, and Mason Rudolph, 1 for 7. That's it.
Yeah, that's not good. I'm looking through the live chat while you're talking, and of course, it's And it's the typical stuff in the live chat. You lose 2 games in a row, fire everybody. I mean, it's just, it's the typical stuff. If that were the only, if firing everyone could fix things that easily, I'm sure everybody would fire everyone consistently. But it never is the case. One positive on the defensive side of football is Nelson is playing really good football. I
Yes,
thought
I thought
I
he had a
thought
great game.
Nelson had a great game. Um, yeah, I think that you know it's funny that I'm going to say this. I'm still actually more concerned with the offense than I am on the defensive side of football. I still think the defense is more talented than
Okay,
this offense. Still,
let's talk this out then. Let's go over this because I'm not saying I disagree with you, but if you think that the defense still has more potential, where's the missing? What is missing from this defense to get it to a point where you at least as a fan have a sense of yeah they're going to get a stop compared to there's no way.
I think the front. I mean, I think the front seven still has to be is encouraging. I still think because there's still new moving parts. I still think, and this is flatly squarely on the coaches. I still think communication is an issue, and I just feel like teams have them guessing at the moment. I don't think they're confident. Probably trying to do everything that they would like to do from a scheme perspective. And so I think it's a defense that's still trying to get on page, but I think they still have talented players in their defense. When I look on the offensive side of football, especially at the wide receiver core, you got 2 rookies playing this early in the season, which is alarming to me. You have a guy in Moncrief that can't catch, is probably injured and shouldn't be playing. You have Ryan Switzer that gets 0 yards after the catch and actually catches balls for like 1 yard. He's the electric robot football man that doesn't move when the board just
Uh,
he just stays still. And James Conner is nicked. And so on the offensive side of football, there's just no juice right now. There's no juice. It's going to have to be highly schemed for it to work. And Juju, I don't think is scaring anyone.
no, and honestly, I actually kind of predicted that I didn't think that Juju would strike fear into defenses like Mr. Third and Fifth did, or when Martavis Bryant did when he was on the team. I think that ultimately, offensively, I said this, and I wrote an article last week talking about how the Pittsburgh Steelers, in terms of the percentage of the receivers playing, how many snaps are they playing and all that stuff, should be different in week 2. And there were a couple people that just ripped me a new one saying, "Oh my gosh, this is a knee jerk reaction." Is it still a knee jerk reaction, folks? I don't think it is. Ryan Switzer shouldn't be playing. He shouldn't be playing offense. Period.
I,
Okay.
I've
And
said that all season.
Deontay Moncrief shouldn't be playing either. So you know what? You go into battle with James Washington, who had a couple nice catches today. They finally used him over the middle, Lance. I'm sure you were happy about that.
Yes.
Deontay Johnson had a rookie drop, but also had an unbelievable catch for a first down to keep a drive going on 3rd and 10. And you put Juju out there. And then use Vance McDonald the way they did today, and you have yourself what I think is it's not electric, it's not dynamic, but it's a capable offense in that mind. And for once, this is something that as a fan I've been waiting for 2 years now. We got to see Mason Rudolph, and if let's say Ben has to miss a couple games, I don't think quarterback is going to be the problem.
I don't
Personally.
either. I don't either. Let me give you a number since we're going through the game book. And my number might be off from the first game. I think running backs ran it, I'm going to guess 13 times last week against the Patriots. They ran it another 15 times. They have 28 rushing attempts from running backs and or fullbacks in 2 games.
Yep.
Just think of that. So they've thrown the ball. They threw it 34 times. I think they threw it like 48, 47 times. They've thrown it 81 times. Let's say 80 just to round it off, 80 times. And they've run it, let's say 30 times. That's not going to get it done. They're placating the run game. And the thing that was so comical in this game, you have a quarterback rubbing his elbow. He's clearly hurt, but they still go shotgun 4 wideouts or 11 personnel, and he proceeds to throw it another 5 or 6 times after he's visibly hurt, rubbing his elbow. If that doesn't tell you that they have no that they have any commitment to running the football, That should tell you right there. Running the football is just it's just to placate people or placate it because they have to, and they can't realistically throw it 50 times and run it 2 times. They have no commitment to the running game. They're going to have to balance this offense out, but they may not be able to because now Connor is nicked. But they need to balance this offense out, and it needs to be a play action offense, in my opinion, a more traditional play action offense. Here's a funny thing when I'm looking at the live chat, when people talk about adjustments. Here's the funny thing about adjustments. People only recognize adjustments if they work. There are many times where teams make adjustments in games that don't work. It is not to say that they aren't making adjustments. It's just that people only recognize positive adjustments. And a lot of times, teams don't make a ton of adjustments anyway in games. You try to tighten the screws on what you're trying to do because you spent some time game planning and you thought that something would work. But they're in an 0-2 hole. They have, game three is, I hate to say must win this early, but you do not want to go down 0-3. And the Niners just wallop Cincinnati, I believe, 41-17.
Yeah, no, they did. It's not going to be an easy trip at all because they're going across country. We know the Steelers struggle in that avenue in that area. The thing is, for me, to me, a lot of this offensively hangs on Ben Roethlisberger. And like I said, I can't believe I'm saying it because we've said it for years, and that is, if Ben's done, then the Steelers are done. And it even comes down. It's ironic. I watched on the NFL Network Friday night, Terry Bradshaw's Football Life, and
Yeah, I was watching that too.
I watched it live, and they talked. He talked openly. You saw that play where what ended his career, elbow injury. An
Yep.
elbow injury, is one of those situations where he thought he was healthy, they put him back on the field, and then he was just done. I'm not saying that Ben Roethlisberger's career is done. We don't even know the extent of his injury, but it was bad enough that he didn't come back in the second half. And this wasn't a game like it was in Oakland last year for X-Ray Gate, where they had they had to
I
take
like
him across the street and over two blocks up the street and then up to the third floor for a 1970s style X-ray machine in Oakland. This was more along the lines of, and they thought they could win that game against Oakland last year without him. This was a close game and they kept him out. But again, I'm not concerned about the quarterback. I'm not. I fully think Mason Rudolph could come in. Is he going to make some mistakes? Is he going to make some bad throws? He's going to make some questionable decisions. He's a young quarterback, yeah, but I'm not concerned about the quarterback position. What I am concerned about is, can the defense tackle a little bit better?
bad. It was really bad. The tackling was really bad.
Can you just not have blown coverages?
Really bad.
You talked about yourself, back-to-back busts. You can't have a bust. Like, that's the thing. Like, I saw
Not in the red zone, not right there. I mean, those
no,
busts were
exactly. I was watching on the Steelers official Twitter account where Arthur Moats was talking about what Keith Butler always preaches, which is funny because he might preach nothing. I don't know. But he said that he always preached, look, if you're all doing the wrong thing, at least do the wrong thing together. But when you have half of the team doing one thing and half doing the other,
right.
I don't know what's going on. Like Mark Barron ended up because Vince Williams had I don't care. Everyone's so enamored with the green sticker on the helmet. Who's the communicator? It was TJ Watt in week 1. Everyone had, oh my gosh, it's an outside linebacker. Well, today it was Vince Williams, and Vince Williams gets hurt, hamstring injury. Mark Barron has the green dot then. So here you have a guy that hasn't even been in the offense for more than 3 weeks, not counting the preseason, and he's now calling the plays on the defensive side of the ball, and he's not playing well either.
This leads to your topic or the burning question that came out yesterday. When teams struggle and aren't playing very well, who's more to blame? Is it coaches or is it players?
I will always, always, always say it's players because it's not Mike Tomlin's fault that Bud Dupree blows his assignment or misses a tackle. I'm not going to say that it's Randy Fichtner's fault that Dante Moncrief lets a ball sail right through his hands on a 3rd and 10 and it gets intercepted.
It hit his face mask.
Did it hit his face mask?
Yeah, it hit his face mask.
I thought it was up over his head.
I thought it hit his face mask.
I could be wrong. I'm not saying that you're right and I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Anyways, so either way.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think coach's job are to put you in a position to make plays. Chickalo was in position to make the play. He misses the tackle. They score a touchdown. I mean,
Yeah,
it's so to me, it's always
you just
plays.
got to make a play. Is it Danny Smith's fault that Big Dan McCullers decides to crash down on top of the long
Long
snapper,
snap.
which you can't do in the NFL? Is it Danny Smith's fault? I don't think he coached him to do that. And so for me, I'm not saying the coaches are immune from criticism because certainly they deserve their share, but I don't give them the lion's share of criticism based on the fact that Randy Fiedner could have the perfect play drawn up, and if the players don't go out and execute, nothing's going to happen. And when the players do go out and execute, very rarely do you hear, "Boy, that was a great play call," or "That was a great way to draw it up." That just doesn't happen that way. So
Right,
for
right,
me, it's a catch-22, and that's like I don't know if it was Tomlin, but someone said coaches and quarterbacks they get too much blame when you lose, and yet not enough credit when you win. So there you have it.
right. Yeah, I don't disagree. It's the classic cliche. You can lead a what
Oh
is it?
boy, here we go. Here we go. Is he gonna get
I
it?
think I'm gonna mess it up. You can lead something to drink,
A horse to water.
but you can't force them to drink. That's it.
You
Is
can
that
lead
it?
yes. You can lead something to water, but you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm terrible with cliches. I am the cliche killer, and that's the truth. Now you could coaching can be criticized. I say when you have a guy, for instance, uh, people used to be very critical of Dick LeBeau when James Harrison dropped, 30% of the snaps he played. He dropped in coverage. And you're asking yourself, like, why is James Harrison dropping in coverage consistently and not rushing the quarterback? That's a case where you can clearly look at a coordinator and say, you're not necessarily putting a guy in a position to succeed. However, like you said, when Moncrief lets a ball go through his hands, it either hits his hands or hits his face mask. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You called the play, you know, the guy didn't execute. McCullers is in that same position probably on field goal attempts every single time, and he hits the long snapper.
Yeah.
You just, boneheaded execution plays will get coaches fired and players cut, and that's just the way it works.
Yeah. And so, where do the Steelers go now? I mean, I'm looking at the stat line. It's awful. I mean, it's awful. Juju has five catches on 8 targets for 84 yards. Wasn't even a factor in the first half. Vance McDonald finishes with 7 receptions, 38 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Washington, 2 receptions for 23 yards. Sorry about the dog there.
Even the dog is pissed. Gee.
We're all Steeler fans in this house, even the canines. So here we have the Steelers are now 0-2 going out west to your home state of California for the 49ers game. What do you think? I mean,
They're in trouble. I did my last show last Friday. Yeah, I said it. It's always sunny in Pittsburgh. I think. Yeah, I think it might not be too sunny. This right now, this isn't a good football team. I'm not saying panic, but there are some cracks in the foundation. The boat is leaking. Excuse me. It is time to be somewhat concerned about this football team. They can't convert third downs. They can't run the football on offense. They're not getting people off the field, and they're getting diced and picked apart on the back end. I mean, Russell Wilson has 6 or 7 incompletions. I mean, Tom Brady diced him up. You got 2 weeks back to back where you got elite quarterbacks with quarterback ratings over 130. Garafalo just picked apart Cincinnati, put up 41 points, long trip. It's going to be really tough. I mean, it's going to be really tough. There and there's no one that scares you in particular on either side of the football because you can scheme away a pass rush by just going shotgun, quick game, get the ball out. And there's nobody on this offense that scares anybody. And if James Conner is out, it's going to be interesting. But I think the biggest thing that's the issue going into the San Francisco 49er game is the health of the quarterback. You don't know if Ben is healthy. And even when he was healthy in this game, the offense looked terrible. So there are some cracks in the foundation. This is a boat that I would not want to be sailing on. I'd rather be on a Royal Caribbean that I knew could get me to the Bahamas and back.
here's my next question, which is going to sound extremely obvious, but how in the heck didn't we see this? This team has not changed, Lance. I mean, are we that bad?
Infected
Or
me. It's your fault. It's your fault. You infected me, Jeff. It's your fault. See, I did a positive podcast on Friday. It's your rosy disposition. You're always smiling. You're always, the glass is always half full. You're always, it's you, Jeff. It's you, Jeff. See, because you've made me more positive, I couldn't get back into my pessimistic deep dive and rip this football team going into the season. It's your fault, Jeff.
There's a part of me that says, let's just see what Rudolph can do. Let's just see it, Let's just see what he can do. I mean, you might as well. We know what Ben can do, but as we're doing the show, I'm watching the Kansas City Chiefs on television, and they're just moving up and down the field with ease. And I'm watching the Steelers, and it's like painful.
It's a struggle. Like everything is a struggle. When I watch that offense, I have no idea what they're trying to do to attack another defense. It just doesn't. Sometimes it's as clear as day when you see it. When teams come out and they run a certain way, they run a certain direction, certain throws, you kind of see it. It seems like the Steeler offense is guessing from the start of the game.
Yeah, they are. That's what I don't get. You script. Have you ever seen a team, and I tweeted this out as I run the Behind the Steel Curtain Twitter feed during games. Have you ever seen a team that practices a script from at least Thursday until the game starts? You always script out like the first 10 plays. They religiously look awful during that script. How is that possible?
Because they don't have a script.
That would explain a lot. Yeah, there you go.
It's ad lib, baby. They don't have a script.
Oh boy, and there's a lot of people saying, hey, there you go on the screen. Jeff will be rocking that number 2 jersey by mid-October. I have decided if I am going to get one, it's going to be a throwback. Give me the block numbers.
I love that icon or the graphic, that guy's picture. I think that was one of the guys on Punch Out.
It was Soda Popinski.
Look at you, Jeff. I'm impressed. You can pull up the name of video game graphics, but you don't go to any movies.
No, I don't have time for that stuff, man.
But
all
you
my
remember
free time is working.
Soda Popinski. You remember that?
Yes.
You probably didn't see E.T. either.
That was I've seen it. We used to have that movie. I've watched it. We didn't watch it a bunch as a kid, but I have seen it. I have seen E.T.
Okay. You were doing arts and crafts growing up.
So let me clarify this. Greg said, "Hey Jeff, didn't someone say they would get you a Mason jersey if you threw a touchdown?" I thought it was Bo. Getting Ben with Bo, who's in this live chat. He said something to that effect, but I don't know if it was a touchdown or if it was winning a game. So I know you're listening, Bo. I know you're listening. If you said it was a touchdown, he threw 2 of them. I'll be waiting for my jersey to arrive.
Yeah, come on. Come on, Bo. Get the jersey. And then if he gets you the jersey, you should wear it. You should wear it all year.
If I got a jersey, I would wear it for sure. Now, here's the last thing here, because I feel like we're just beating a dead horse. There was a lot of rumors at the end of the week about Minkah Fitzpatrick, the Miami Dolphins. Am I there? Yeah, you get me? All right. There's a lot of news about Minkah Fitzpatrick. Have you heard these rumors, Lance?
Yes.
Lance, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, very good. Did you hear the rumors?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Would you surrender with this team that you have right now? Would you surrender future draft stock, make, say, a second-round pick next year and maybe another pick or something else to the Dolphins to get a player like that? Or would you say that he's not going to make that big of a difference? We'd have 2 first-round safeties from the same class, he and Edmonds. That would be expensive to handle in terms of fifth-year options, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd make the move. I'd make the move. I think with Ben at quarterback, you still have to be aggressive. You have to be aggressive and try to put the best team around him to give the Steelers the best opportunity to win a Super Bowl. Yes, because I don't think Davis is the future. You could upgrade the position to Fitzpatrick, especially depending on the grade that you had on him. It depends on the grade that they had on him in last year's draft or the draft 2 years ago. I think it's last year's draft, depending on what grade they had on him.
Okay. I don't want to. I'm not skirting the subject here, but Jeffrey, he put some, I think $4.99 in the live chat, the tip jar, and he asked a question, and he finally he said it again. There's a lot of people in the live chat, and he was for you, Lance. He said, covering a tight end, where is that adjustment? He wants to know what your thoughts are on the adjustments and Keith Butler and all that stuff.
I think you could play more man. I mean, I think you could adjust and play more man. Once you had them getting picked off in the soft underneath zones, I think you might want to man that up. But I think one of the issues with them playing man is they get beat when it comes to crossing routes or rub routes, I should say. But I think you could man it up. I mean, the completions were really easy. So I think you man it up. I mean, man defense is the easiest you can do. If you're having communication issues, play man. If you can think, because man is easy, guard that guy. I mean, it's not a cerebral thing. At that point, it's an execution thing. Guard that guy. And they did play man, and you saw Devin Bush get beat in man coverage by a tight end for a touchdown. So they tried it. Maybe that's why they went away from it.
Well, the funny thing is that it comes down to I think you have cornerbacks that can handle man coverage for once, and Nelson and Hayden, and they can do it. I was interesting today. Cam Sutton saw some time over Mike Hilton, and Mike Tomlin was asked about that in the post-game press conference. He said, we were just looking for a combination that worked. And so maybe that's a sign that Mike Hilton might be losing some snaps as the nickel cornerback. I thought Cam Sutton at the end of the first half made two very good plays, good tackles, awesome. Wrap tackles, keeping them in bounds, heady play, smart play. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out from here on. The biggest news this week is not gonna come. You'll probably hear some rumors or some grumblings maybe tonight, tomorrow online of Ben's injury. Typically, the team won't say anything official until Tuesday, but a source will say that Ben Roethlisberger's injury is considered a something sprain or a ligament or something in the expected timeline for that to be out. So make sure you're tuned into BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for that. We'll have that as soon as that news is brought up. But
let me read this comment. I think this is the best comment that I've seen thus far in the live chat by Yinzer Life 77. He said, simplifying the schemes on both sides of the ball and solidifying fundamentals is a good start. I mean, I think he's perked. I think that's right. I think when you have a lot of things in it, you have communication issues, you got to simplify. And also, you have to really tackling and fundamentals of tackling is really going to be a focus. The tackling was very poor. I think that was an outstanding comment, I should say, is you have to get back to fundamentals and you have to simplify some things. You have to figure out what you do well on both sides, defensively and offensively. You have to build upon that. And that's what you have to move forward with. You could have the scheme to build the Sistine Chapel, but if you can't paint a brick, what are you going to do? I mean, you better focus on doing the very easy stuff before you get into the detailed stitching and the embroidery and all of the other stuff that you would add to a fancy gown or a painting or something like that. You better be able to just basically stitch and sew at this point.
Yeah, and I think offensively that rings true, but sometimes you bring a vanilla defense to the table, you're going to get torched in the NFL, period.
Yeah, it's just you got to do a couple of things well. Like, of course, you can't just, you can't show a look constantly to do it, but you have to do a couple of things well. Because here's the thing. When you're thinking, you're stinking. When you're thinking too much, you play slow. So all the speed that they've added, you play slow because you're guessing and thinking and not sure. So you might as well be a slow defense.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to get down to what they do well fundamentally on both sides of the ball and really start building game plans around those things. Looking at it, they don't do anything particularly well.
Well, I will say this, that I felt that today, at least offensively in the second half, they did some things well that they could possibly build upon. Whether it's Ben or Mason at quarterback, we won't know. But I thought that they at least did some things that were noteworthy that they could look at and say, okay, going into week 3, this was successful for us. Jalen Samuels didn't play poorly when he got in the game, both in the screen game and on the ground. Also, you have guys like Mason played well, but Vance McDonald was a big contributor in this game. You want to get him involved. You want to make him a part of that offensive game plan. So to put a positive spin on it, which I typically do, I think that although this was a tough loss and a game that they probably should have won, if the Steelers can still create turnovers, and you mentioned how important that was and that is moving forward. If they can create turnovers, I think they have a decent chance. We'll see how they do against the San Francisco 49ers. But real quick, last question. If this is not the Steelers' demo at all, if there was someone that was going to be axed to send a message, so to speak, could be a player or coach. What do you think? Who would it be?
If you had to cut somebody,
Someone's getting fired. Who is it?
damn McCullers.
Really? Okay, I don't think that really sends a message. Like
Yeah, you
Moncrief,
might be right.
Moncrief,
That
Moncrief getting cut.
Yes, yes. Cutting Moncrief would send a message, and they have receivers. You could cut Moncrief. However, here's the thing: we always talk about the three P's: performance, pay, pedigree. He
Yep.
got paid. He got paid.
Yeah, I'd have to see what his dead money hit would be if they cut him.
Let me look that up while you talk.
Okay, because I'll tell you another one. What if, and this would be totally out of the Steelers' usual going ons, is that what if they got rid of Butler as a defensive coordinator? And they just said it's just not working out. They already have one that's ready to step in, and Terrell Austin, who was a defensive coordinator for the Bengals prior to coming to the Steelers. He has experience calling those plays. He knows the secondary well. It's who he's been working with. I'm just saying, if they were gonna make a move to all of a sudden it's gonna perk up some ears and say, "Whoa, didn't see that coming." That could be one. Do you have that number yet?
Yeah, so the cut, a pre-June 1st cut, would be $3.5 million. That would have already have happened. So it would be a post June 1 cut. The dead money charge would be 1.75.
Chump change.
Yeah, you could eat that. You could eat either number
Yes.
because his total his cap charge for the year is 3.25 million. You could eat that.
Okay. Worst free agent pickup in the last few seasons. Is it Ladarius Green? Is it Morgan Burnett, safety last year, or is it Dante Moncrief?
It's Moncrief at this point. It's too early to tell, but at this point, it's Moncrief because at least Ladarius caught a pass and caught a
That's
touchdown
true.
pass against the Giants in the seam. Was an outstanding play. He just had injury issues. He couldn't get over the concussions, I believe.
Yep.
Concussions issue, right?
And
He couldn't
Burnett
get
was
over,
always hurt too.
and Burnett was always hurt as well.
And now he's in Cleveland.
And now he's in Cleveland.
As I watch the Chiefs just move up and down the field, and I think about the Steelers and just shake my head. They used to do that once, Lance. Do you remember that? Those are the good old days.
see, see now see Jeff. I'm trying to stay positive, Jeff. I'm trying to let your
I actually, honestly, I'm not as angry this week as I was last week because last week they got their freaking doors blown off. This week, like I said, there's a few plays that go the other way and they win this football game. This was a contested game. The injuries are concerning because even though Benny Snell had one good throw or one good run, I'm sorry, you're looking at. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. That's the scary thing. I usually have a good feel for the team, good, bad, and different. I don't know about this team, but I thought this game was better. I thought they could build on some things. If they can win next week in San Francisco, that's a later game. That's, I think, a 4:15 start. Then they go on Monday night against the Bengals. You win that game. Now you're 2-2 going into a Baltimore game. I don't know.
I'm looking at Jeffrey's opponent. Thank you, Jeff, for the super chat. Jeffrey wrote, "Bad players coached by bad coaches." Bad players plus bad coaches
I don't
equals
think they're
bad.
all bad players, though. They have one of the best defensive three. I think they had the best 3-4 front in the NFL. And
Yeah,
Tuitt, Hayward, and Hargrave. You throw
yeah.
Watt in that mix, man.
I mean, the one thing we're seeing, and I think over the last couple of games, I think they've been out. I think teams have run. I think the Patriots end up running maybe less than 10. I'll say 10 plays more. But in this game, it was probably what an additional 20 snaps in this game. That third down stuff is alarming. They can't convert third downs. I think after 2 weeks, they might have the lowest, one of the I'd say in the top 5 worst third down percentages made in the National Football League.
Offensive plays today, 72-51.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, It's going to be tough to win games, man, when teams run 30 more plays than you. And they're averaging like 15 more plays than you. That's like 2 or 3 more series. So that's tough.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, let's. What do you want to say to the nation before we call it a show?
Uh, you have positive words.
Okay,
I
I
be
can.
patient.
All
That's
right.
all I can say is be patient. Just 14 more games. There's still a lot of football to be played. If you want to officially jump off the bandwagon, if they go 0-3, I'm giving you permission to go ahead and put your ticket in and go ahead and jump off. But until that point, stay with them.
Well, if you look at the Steelers, you look at their schedule, and you absolutely will see that the first 6 games were really, really tough. And everyone knew that when the schedule was released this spring. Okay, so you had the Patriots, Seahawks, 49ers, Bengals, Ravens, and Chargers before their bye week. But after that, it softens up a little bit. And so if you're an optimist, and you're thinking, okay, if this team can be playing right at the right time, if they can make a run, here's what after the bye looks like: Dolphins, Colts, Rams is tough, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Cardinals, Bills, Jets, Ravens. So if you're an optimist that says these early struggles might not last forever, that could be your ticket. If they can just win a couple more games here, string together a few, then I think that this team could be one that goes on a run in the second half. Will that run be legitimate because of the teams they're playing? No one knows, but we'll see. So, all right, well, everyone that was taking part of the live chat, we appreciate it. If you're listening in audio platform, if you didn't know we had a YouTube channel, go to youtube.com, search BTSE Steelers Radio, subscribe. People always say, when do you guys go on? I never know. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you get your notifications turned on your phone, and every time we go live, you'll get a push notification so you don't miss a show. You can find our podcast anywhere where you search for podcasts. Just search BTSC, Behind the Steel Curtain, or SB Nation, and you'll find us there. Lance, why don't you send us off the way you always do?
Before I do that, make sure you keep listening to the shows.
Yeah.
Steelers are 0-2. Keep listening to the shows. Just stick with us. Keep listening to the shows. But with that, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe.
And we'll see you next week, a little bit later, after the Steelers play the 49ers, hopefully get their first win of the season. We'll see. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steelers Postgame.